Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everyone? Geoff, Mosher, Adam Caplan here, doing what we always do for most of those who listen on Friday morning or before the game, and that's preview the game. It's a big game for the Eagles. They're 1-3. They're traveling to Charlotte to face a 3-1 Panthers team that's off to a pretty good start. Lost to the Cowboys last weekend. Gave them a good fight. So you know this team's got some players. Sam Darnold playing well. So we'll get into all of that and break down the X's and O's before we give our prediction, get out of here, and then do it even further and even better, I'd like to say, on Sunday. It'll be me, Adam, Jason Avant, Greg Cosell for the pregame show that'll start at 10 a.m., 10 to noon on our YouTube platform and some of the other social media platforms you can find Inside the Birds. So make sure you catch that show. It's going to be a great one. If you're looking for some last-minute fantasy football advice, Andrew DeCecco is doing his Inside the Birds fantasy football show, and he is doing a good job. So his video is up on our YouTube platform, so make sure you check that out as well. Obviously, Adam, we'll start with injuries like we usually do when we look toward the game day matchup. Let's start with some of the transactions that have gone on throughout the week. Not too many for the Eagles. The only good news I'd say is, LaRaven Clark is off the injured reserve, the practice squad injured reserve. So he's back on the practice squad, and Christian Ellis, the son of Luther Ellis,
right,
has been released. So other than that, nothing from a transactional standpoint.
Correct. Yeah, no, it's really just about injuries and so forth. So yeah, it's Clark, you brought it up, like what's going on with him? Well, it's amazing. They read your mind. He's actually reinstated to the practice squad roster. So that beefs up their offensive line in terms of someone with experience, because he could play guard. He has played it before. He could play right and left tackle, so he's a valuable guy to have, and they're glad to have him. Then the injury report. Look, Lane Johnson through Thursday has not practiced. We're going to do this. We're not going to discuss exactly what he's dealing with. It's a private situation. It's his personal situation. We're just not going to go into it. We're going to respect that situation as it is, and let the Eagles discuss whatever they want to discuss publicly if they're going to do it at all. Right, but I'm not expecting Lane to be active at this point.
No, he is back in Philadelphia. We can report that with confidence. Yeah,
he is. Yes, he's back. He was back, I think, Wednesday night or something, Wednesday afternoon, something like that. But that he's dealing with whatever he's dealing with, and that's that. And we know what happened last week with the offensive line moves, and that we discussed it on Wednesday morning show. That their line was taught. They learned this last Sunday morning that Lane was not going to be with the team, and just what a remarkable job. And I know they went through a lot of craziness last year with all the offensive line changes. I know it's nothing new for Jeff Stoutland, the great one, the guy who coaches them, and but it's new to this coaching staff. Just overall, with something happening like this, which is a major absence, we were shocked when we were doing the pregame show. I broke in there. I said, "You're not going to believe this, but Lane Johnson's not going to be with the team today." But by the way, the ankle's off the injury report, so that's a good thing. So it was a minor injury,
not ankle related.
Right, the personal issue he's dealing with, he's got to take care of, and we wish him well.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
So I was going to say last week, the timing for the Eagles on some of these guys coming back has been impeccable. Jack Driscoll came back last week. He wasn't even he was only in the 21-day practice window from being off IR. And then on Saturday, they actually activated him onto the roster. And then on Sunday, a couple hours before the game, he's like, they're telling him you're starting at right tackle.
Crazy.
And as we just talked about LaRaven Clark being on the practice squad. So he's eligible to be elevated. And when you look at what the Eagles are going into Sunday with, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but in all likelihood, we'll see on Jordan Mailata and his status. But even if Jordan Mailata were to play, your backup offensive line, because remember, we didn't talk about this transaction. Sua Opeta, as of the time of us doing this podcast, is still on the reserve COVID-19 list. I don't believe he's been removed from that yet.
Yeah,
so
it's Friday morning, so yeah.
They're looking pretty thin on the offensive line. They may have to elevate LaRaven Clark for this game.
So right now, if Lane Johnson is inactive, you've got Brett Toth. Means Nate Herbig will start again at guard.
Maybe. We'll talk about that.
We'll see. Could be, right, but he's available. Jack Anderson's available. He's yet to play an NFL regular season game.
Right.
They have some players, but as you said, now having Clark back. Now, the thing with Clark is, yes, he started practicing this week, but he's just back from being on injured reserve. a short term. And then Woshika's not played in an NFL game yet. So they have bodies, but some of these guys just have not played.
Well, that's the same issue Driscoll had. Remember, last week was the first week he had practiced in 3 weeks. He hadn't practiced since they set the 53-man roster.
Almost 6, actually. Yeah,
it was actually longer.
It's amazing.
Than that, right?
Isn't that unbelievable?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Yeah, so great.
And he played well, by the way.
Tribute to him to be able to step in there and do that. That was amazing. Yeah, absolutely. We'll see how the offensive line goes, but certainly right now in a very perilous state, they can't really afford too many more injuries or anything to happen there because they're just making it work with what they've got. Jordan Mailata did practice Wednesday and Thursday in a limited capacity. I was there Thursday. He's got a really bulky brace on, and he spent at least the first, I want to say 5 to 10 minutes of warm-ups by himself with the trainers, kind of working on that, stretching, but also working on that brace. It kind of looks cumbersome, looks bulky. So you wonder just how comfortable he feels with it. Now, he's the type of guy, Adam, that you feel like if he can go, he's going to give it a whirl and give it his best. But we all know in anything that we do, when we're not comfortable, we're a little bit insecure about it, or it's a little difficult to do. So we'll have to see how he plays and where he plays, and if he plays with this brace on, and if that prohibits him at all.
Yeah, he's got an MCL sprain that we're told. So it's his right knee. To me, he's got to wear the brace, and Trey Thomas would love to hear that. He thinks all offensive linemen should wear them, and I don't disagree with him, as he told us last year on our shows. But yeah, him being able to play is really key, because if he can't, we're looking at the same starting lineup as last week, correct? I would think.
Well, if he cannot play, yes. If he can play, we'll talk about that, because I think there's 2 different options here, and the team has to decide what's the best makeup. But we'll get to that when we break down the Eagles offense versus Panthers defense. As far as the Panthers, if you were hoping McCaffrey, I said McCaffrey's going to watch some Eagles tape, and all of a sudden he's going to be like, I think my hamstring feels much, much better. But it sounds like from his comments to the press on Thursday, he said he was feeling a whole lot better. Now, the coaches have come out and said, we're not going to play him at 95% or 98%. We're only going to play him if he's fully healthy, right? But you also know coaches, they see a player, he feels great, and that's their weapon. You wonder if they'll just be like, all right, you're saying you're good to go. We'll see. So obviously Adam, a medical decision, but this is a big what if for the Panthers.
They can't have. I agree with that assessment in terms of 95%. I wouldn't play him if I were them. Why would you risk it? He is everything to their football team. They cannot go anywhere in the playoffs, assuming they're going to be a playoff team without him being healthy. And they saw how bad their offense struggled over a period of time. I know Mike Davis did a good job filling in, but then Davis faded, and he had that knee injury. So there are a couple big ones. Shaq Thompson's not expected to play with his sprained foot.
Yeah, it's rough.
Who's one? Remember, they run a 34 now. Phil Snow. They changed their defense from a 4-2-5 from last year now to a 34 hybrid. So Thompson's playing inside. He's expected to miss maybe a couple weeks. Oh, and then this is a big one. Cam Irving, their left tackle, has not got cleared for contact. He's got a neck injury. And this is a major advantage. They gave up a lot of pressure last week, the Panthers did. So their options are that they've made this decision. They're not going to move Taylor Moton, their star right tackle, to left tackle. He took reps at left tackle in training camp. So they would go with Trent Scott, who they claimed off of waivers a couple years ago from the Chargers, or Brady Christensen, number 70, who's a rookie, 3rd-round pick out of BYU. But that's a major advantage, even if Irving could play. Cam Irving's a versatile backup. I'm surprised that he would be starting for the Carolina. So that's of an offensive line that's well below average. He might be the weakest link. He's a guy you could take advantage of. So whoever who starts there, that is a major advantage. Randy Gregory got him for 2 sacks last week.
Oh, well, yeah, I was going to say somehow they've been able to survive with him there, but they've also played some pretty bad teams. Houston, they played the Jets. Who's the third year? Was it New Orleans that they beat? I think in week 2. New Orleans got some pass rushers, so they figured it out that game, and Darnold's played fairly well. But sometimes, as you're just mentioning there, people scheme on that. They see your weak point. Obviously, the Cowboys were able to take advantage, so that's big. Now, from a transactional news for the Panthers, a lot of people still kind of uncertain about this, but we can definitively tell people that there will be no Steph Gilmore on the field for the Panthers in this game. He is still on the PUP list, so he's got, I think, 2 more weeks this week and next before he can be activated into the window. So fear not. Jalen Hurts doesn't have to worry about Steph Gilmore being out there. So I know that some people were confused about that.
Right, and we'll get into the matchups. They still have plenty of bodies there, but that's big. That was a pretty good trade. I mean, they only gave up a 6th-round pick for 2023, but Gilmore's on the final year of his deal. The Patriots made a decision they were going to cut him if they couldn't trade him. They found someone who would take him. And typically, you do these deals at the trade deadline, not this early. The trade deadline's at the end of the month, but the Patriots made a decision they wanted to move on without Gilmore, and he's going to have a chance to ride again in the playoffs here. Well, Carolina's been a pretty interesting team. They've really turned their fortunes around, no question about it.
Well, he's gonna enjoy, I think, playing in this defense because the Panthers are getting a good pass rush. They're doing a lot of exotic things with Phil Snow, as you had mentioned in the last podcast. They've got some good rushers in Reddick and Brian Burns. We'll talk about that, but I think he's going to enjoy playing this defense. And Steph Gilmore is a stud. I know he's been hurt a lot. He's 31. He's one of those guys where I always talk about some people you see in person, Adam. Like you see them on TV and you know they're good, but it's not until you get to see them in person and what they look like and how different they look compared to players at their position where you realize how special they are. He's enormous. He looks like a safety, but he runs like a corner and he breaks on the ball like a corner. And he's got, really long fingers. I mean, he is just a really well put together cornerback, and he's one of the best ones when he's healthy. So it's a good addition for them.
Yeah, he's coming off a devastating injury. Fully tore his quadriceps muscle last year, and he wanted an extension, didn't get it, and Belichick. He was willing to talk about him earlier this week. I mean, he thanked him for everything, and then that once he was done talking in his introductory statement, he was not taking any questions on it.
Right.
But the thing is, for Carolina, this really makes him potent because losing J.C. Horn most likely for the season, with a broken foot in 3 places, that it's a shame. He was playing lights out. He had a great training camp. I enjoyed spending time with the Panthers for 2 days. With the Ravens, Horn. Just like his dad is, he talks a good game, but man, there are a lot of people I know, or in respect, thought he was the best defensive player for this draft, not just best corner, best defensive player. He might wind up being down the road.
Well, him and Parsons, when he was healthy and the way Parsons playing, it certainly lived up to their billing so far.
No doubt.
All right, let's break down this game first. As we've been telling you, you got to find ways to get advantages over your sports book. So use BetQL. It's the only app you'll need to make smart bets because they have a best bet computer model that scans over 350,000 unique bets a year to give you a best bet recommendation for every game across all major sports and gives you the reason why you should place the bet. Their model covers everything from spreads to over-unders and player prop bets. And if you don't want to use the model, if you're the type of person who researches everything yourself, they've got all the necessary tools for your betting research needs. They've got sharp data, line movement, team summaries, lineup and injury breaking news, even a leaderboards to track your success. So head to the App Store or Google Play Store now to download BetQL. You can also go to try.betql.co/ITB to get started right now. Enter the promo code ITB at payment checkout for 25% off their subscription offerings. And check out their sportsbook offers page if you live in one of the eligible states to claim free offers upon signing up at one of the many sportsbooks listed. So don't miss out on the chance to beat your sportsbook this football season with BetQL. All right, let's start off talking about the Eagles offense versus the Panthers defense. Obviously, what we saw last week was a very kind of, I don't want to say Jekyll and Hyde Eagles offense, but we talked about how the first 2 or 3 possessions was all about the college game, the quick stuff, the RPOs, the motion, amazing motion. There was some end around. There was a handoff to Jalen Reagor, and then the game kind of settled into more of a conventional offense. So in this game, Adam, I think the big looking point here is you had Jalen Hurts play well in a loss last week, and I think that even if they lose this game, and I'm sure they're not favored, but you want to see the continuation of that, right? Good game against Atlanta, okay to game against San Francisco, not a good game at all against Dallas, better, much better against Kansas City. So it's time to start seeing consistently good efforts from Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, look, you have to feel encouraged with the way that he played last week. If you're an Eagles fan, he really got the job done. It wasn't perfect. Certainly, there's some throws he liked to have back, some throws he should have made where he didn't throw it. where he was a little bit indecisive, but overall he threw the ball well with accuracy. The accuracy in the pass placement, as we talked about the previous show, was much better. That's really encouraging because the Niners game and obviously Dallas game, in terms of where the ball should have been, was disappointing. And in this game, he really got his accuracy better. So that was encouraging. When you look at what they're going up against here, because as you mentioned, Gilmore's not playing. Phil Snow brings it. They blitz. They're the number 2 blitzing team in the National Football League, 41%. They give up nothing yards after the catch, very little. They're number 2 in yardage after the catch. So that's an interesting stat. Number 2 in sacks, number 1 in pressures, number 3 in quarterback hits. So yeah, they played great except for last week, though.
Right.
This includes last week's game against Dallas, where they didn't play well defensively.
Right.
They're middle of the road in terms of zone versus man, about 68% zone, but they're very good. They only give a 59% completion rate, number 5 in the NFL. So they make it hard on you. What happened last week, when you really look at the Panthers defense, the Cowboys did a good job with a quick game. They got the tight ends involved. Dalton Schultz did it again against them. So to me, I think the tight ends are going to have to be involved again. Hurts has got to get rid of the ball quickly. So maybe this is the matchup where you go back to week 1. You might go back to that one. Last week, they did some of that, the quick game. They definitely did early.
Oh, yeah.
But I do wonder, how do you defeat this blitz? You're probably going to have to get it out early.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking that, first of all, they'll have to do some things differently. You can't just obviously take the same blueprint. And then, as you've mentioned, Phil Snow, coming from the college ranks in general, is going to be ready. A, he's going to be ready for it, and B, he just saw what they did last week. So he'll be ready for that even more. I imagine he'll try to force the issue early on a little bit more than the Chiefs did, because the Chiefs probably didn't expect that kind of offense right from the get-go, because you didn't see it the 2 weeks before. If you want to get to your tight ends, which we always say you should, it's great that Shaq Thompson might not play. Maybe not so good, though, that Jeremy Chin, who's been an excellent safety prospect, has been out there, and that guy is a very good player. You can probably attack the perimeters here because their cornerbacks aren't great. But to go back to your point, this is all about, can the Eagles block up correctly what the Panthers are doing? And also, and Q&A made this point really well, can Jalen do a better job of understanding on these, whether it's an overloaded blitzes or double A gap blitzes, of where that pressure is going to come and then where the open bubble will be? They brought up the play before halftime, and they said it's on Jason Kelce to really point out the fact that 2 guys are about to come up the middle, because you can see they're doing it. But it's also on the quarterback to understand that that's where they're coming. They're coming with middle pressure. And if they smack the ball out of your hand because you didn't throw it or you didn't adjust to it, that's on you as the quarterback, because you had it. It wasn't like a blindside blitz. It was coming right in front of your face. So there were a few occasions versus the blitz against the Chiefs where you saw Jalen kind of either, fumble like that, or we talked about the backpedal and then rushing the throw. So he's got to kind of handle a lot better this week, because I think he's going to see a lot more pressure this week. Oh,
a ton of it. I mean, based on what Phil Snow's done, he's bringing it. So there is some hope, though, for explosive plays. I know overall their number is good against in terms of yardage after the catch, but the 2 receivers who got him this season, Brandon Cooks, I know the game was a blowout, that Thursday night game when McCaffrey got hurt. Brandon Cooks, who's now with the Texans, 9 for 112. Some over-the-middle catches, which is good. Justin Burris, we should mention, one of their starting safeties is out. J.C. Horner, we mentioned, obviously is out. So matchup-wise, that'll probably help them a little bit. And the Eagles have guys who can run. That does help. Mm-hmm. And then Corey Davis against the Jets, when the Jets came back in that game, or I think it was week 1, Corey Davis had 2 touchdowns for the Jets, who's got good size. So it's not like the Panthers are impenetrable against the pass. There are certain things you can do.
Yes.
But without J.C. Horn, and you mentioned Gilmore not being available, there's some matchups that favor them. They're not great at corner now. Dante Jackson's a nice player who is more of a number 2 corner. Rashawn Melvin is a journeyman. He's been on about 7 or 8 teams. He's not if you're the Panthers, you don't want him really out there. Now, C.J. Henderson, who is going to play heavier minutes, he's kind of underachieved. So the Jaguars didn't want him. Think about that. This new staff did not want him, particularly Urban Meyer, whose call it was. But
that doesn't, to me, I question every move that the Jaguars have made under Urban Meyer.
Just so you know, though, he's a height, weight, speed guy. C.J. Henderson's got all the measurables you want, but he's got to play up to those measurables. He did not last year. and Urban Meyer didn't want him, so he's getting a new lease on life, and he's got ability, he's got size, and I'm really interested to see now that he's in there full time, Henderson, how they're going to use him, and it really starts more or less this week. Now that he's kind of been indoctrinated to the defense.
Yeah, no, you would think, man, when Horn comes back and when they've got Steph Gilmore and then maybe they can move Henderson to the slot, that might be a really nice defensive backfield if they can figure out how to tap into CJ Henderson. Either way, it's going to be great with Gilmore and JC Horn. I don't see this being a game. I could be wrong, but I don't feel like Miles Sanders and the running backs are going to get lost in the sauce of this game. I just don't see that happening 3 weeks in a row. I know they're a pass-first offense, but I also know that they've been doing things to help the offensive line and the quarterback. Last week it was quick game, and this week with the way they're going to come at you and you have to make some adjustments, I have to think there's going to be opportunities to run the ball. When you can either reverse or you can draw, you can counter against an aggressive front to get them off balance, and they certainly have two running backs in Gainwell and Sanders who can take advantage of those kind of holes that are created when a defense is aggressive. I will be stunned if after the game we are talking about 12 or fewer carries collectively for the running backs. Absolutely stunned. Well, unless they were down like 30-0 after a quarter, but I don't see that.
Last week, it's funny you should mention that. Elliott and Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard combined for 30 carries for over 200 yards. That is really good. And this Eagle offensive line, I know they could block for the run. I'm sure they love to block for the run because they haven't got a chance to do it. But just to summarize, I agree with you. The opportunity to be there. It's just the Panthers have been front runners so far. So the first time they've really been behind in the game, and they got housed against the run. So that's a good point. I'll be interested. I don't think Sirianni will do it in terms of the first half, but it wouldn't hurt. Sanders could run. I know last week wasn't great for the time that he got it, but I'm so fascinated to see how they're going to use it. And also running backs out of the backfield. The Cowboys did nothing last week with it. It was really Dalton Schultz run after the catch as a tight end. They found seams in Carolina's zone. Blake Jarwin scored a touchdown. Cedric Wilson's a backup receiver, had a nice touchdown catch. Dak only had to throw it 22 times, but he had 4 touchdown passes.
Jeez, unbelievable. That's efficient. So let's shift focus real quick to the offensive line for the Eagles, because once again, Andre Dillard, I don't want to say he's catching a break, but by going up against this 3-4 defense, he's probably going to see Hassan Reddick over him pass rushing. And Hassan Reddick, we know Hassan from Temple and from Arizona. He's only 235, 240 pounds. He's mostly a speed rusher. I mean, he's a good one, but you can even say the same if they move Brian Burns over. You're talking about guys who are more speed rushers than power rushers. Although when I've seen Brian Burns, I feel like he has good speed to power, but the bottom line is he's not a 290-pound defensive end, those are the kind of guys that we expect Dillard to struggle against. So I don't know that it's a break per se, because the Carolina Panthers have done a nice job with these guys, but it doesn't necessarily cater to Dillard's weaknesses if he winds up starting at left tackle.
Yeah, Burns and Hassan Reddick. Reddick, as Panthers first said to me, plays with his hair on fire. That means he's straight to the passer. They don't ask him really to. What's that?
Shot out of a cannon.
Right, absolutely. He's the Cardinals for years had no idea what to do with him. Was he an inside linebacker, outside linebacker? Then last year they made him strictly an outside linebacker, and he was great. And he's just getting a chance to rush the passer. He and Burns are their outside linebackers when they're in their 34. Gross Matos, the former Penn State pass rusher, really hasn't done much since he was drafted as a second rounder last year.
He's another undersized guy.
Yeah, he can run, but without Shaq Thompson, that's going to be a problem. That's an advantage for the Eagles. We'll see if they take advantage of it. But Chin, as you mentioned, he's a player, man. This guy is. You'll see him being moved around, and I'll be interested to see if he'll be on Goddard or Ertz during this game. I'm really interested to see how they do this.
All right, here's what I'm fascinated by with the offensive line. I'm gonna look. We don't know right now, so I'll ask you to put your Jeff Stoutland hat on. Right, you have. Let's say Mailata is going to play. Yep. So that gives you 2 different line options. You can play, well, it gives you 3, but 2 realistic ones. You can play Dillard at left tackle, Mailata at right tackle to fill in for Lane Johnson, and then your guards would be Dick Driscoll at right guard and Dickerson at left guard. All right. Or you can play Driscoll at right tackle, Mailata at left tackle, and your guards would be Herbig and Dickerson. So what you're essentially deciding between is not only which side of the line you want Mailata on, but also whether you're kind of deciding Driscoll over Herbig over Dillard, right? Because in each of these scenarios, you have to take one or two of those guys off the field. Which combination would you go with?
If Mailata is not playing, and assuming Lane Johnson's not, I go with the same exact lineup last week.
No. If Mailata does play,
if Mailata plays, oh boy, I never thought I'd say this. I hate to take Dillard out of the lineup. I mean, he's his pass protection's like really good. It's I know they're not running the ball now. I know that's always been his challenge.
So you put Mailata at left tackle, Driscoll at right tackle, and then your guards are Dickerson and Driscoll. I'm sorry, no, Dickerson and Herbig.
Well, okay. If Mailata is playing, I want Mailata on the left side. I know he's taking reps at right tackle this week. It's hard to, because I don't know, as we're doing the show Friday morning, I don't know how comfortable he's been. He's got to practice later today. You know, today the Friday practice, as Jason Avant was telling us on last Sunday's show, is no more than an hour, and it's so light, but it's okay for Mailata. You just want to see him move. You know, we were told when he had this injury, it was a 1 to 3 week injury, and then it's in the third week now, so he should be close. I just don't know how comfortable he's going to be. That's the struggle that I have with this. I don't know yet.
I agree. It's tough. I think though, if all things were kind of, well, not healthy, because then you wouldn't have this issue. But
yeah,
I think the guy you would want to see on the field the least would be Nate Herbig. No knock on Herbig, but I'd rather have my guards be Driscoll and Dickerson than Herbig and Dickerson. So if I'm going to go with Driscoll at right guard and Dickerson at left guard, then my tackles are going to have to be Dillard and Mailata, right?
Yep.
So now, but I know Dillard is not going to be able to play right tackle, which is amazing because, you know, Jordan Mailata's played football for 3 years and he could probably go over and play right tackle if he needs to. So that really might wind up being the lineup where you have Dillard at left tackle, Mailata at right tackle, and then Driscoll right guard, Dickerson left guard.
Well, remember, Driscoll was going to start at right guard before Lane Johnson was unavailable. So there's so many machinations, as they say. It's this is a tough one, man. I don't know how Geoff Stoutland does it. He clearly doesn't worry about, hey, this is what we have to do. Let's do it. But we also know that, and particularly, but based on what we know with this O-line coach, he doesn't really want a lot of change. That's why it makes it a little bit more difficult. Not knowing Mailata, how close we know he's close, but did they feel he looks good enough when they watch him practice tape? Does he look like he's moving well? Because you said when you saw him at practice this week on Wednesday and Thursday, did he look like he was? I know you guys only could see 20 minutes, but did he look like he was moving okay?
It was hard to tell. Like I said, he spent a good amount of time kind of stretching and getting that brace, feeling comfortable. It was not we didn't really get an opportunity to see him out there and even doing like the regular warm-ups.
Gotcha.
So we'll just have to see. And I'm sure that
we'll try to get something on this for Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. It's funny. We were going to talk about some stuff, and then the Lane Johnson story broke, and we were just when you don't know someone's coming. I don't know if you folks saw it. Cosell, even Greg's usually pretty like this if you're watching us on YouTube, but he's like, what?
Yeah, I know. I was in the middle of doing an advertisement read, and I was like, I can't believe Adam's interrupting me for inactives, and then of course it was
sorry. It's like, whoa. It's okay. Yeah, you got why. Yeah. Anyway.
So real quick on just the wide receivers. Like we were talking about, there should be some good opportunities for Devontae Smith here, maybe even Jalen Reagor or Quez Watkins to win some one-on-ones. But I still think, and Q&A back this up. All right, and in the red zone, the Eagles wide receivers got to do or Nick Sirianni, one or the other, they've got to do a better job of scheming these guys open because they're not, other than Devontae, who can clearly get open, everybody else still kind of struggles against press. And when these guys get their arms on him, the D-backs get their hands on the receivers, there's a lot of progress that still needs to be made with these wide receivers and getting open, especially on third down and in red zone situations.
Yeah, so the way that, and you were talking about the receiver. So AJ Boye, by the way, we should mention this. He did start last week. The
He's
Panthers,
still in the league?
Yeah, no, they signed him to be their third corner. He had to sit out the rest of his 6-game suspension earliest this season. They wanted him to be their top backup corner, and then Horn, breaks his foot. Now he's got to start. C.J. Henderson was with them last week. He was coming off a groin injury, just got traded. So he played 18 snaps against the Cowboys. He should play more this week. Rashaan Melvin, who's a true journeyman, he was their third corner last week. I would expect that if they think Henderson knows what he's doing, he'll play more than Melvin. But you're right, man. There's some opportunities here. This is not a great group of corners without Gilmore.
No, it's not. But some notes, as you mentioned, the Panthers blitz about 41% of the time. That's second. Whoa, that's almost Todd Bowles territory right there.
And guess who's number one? The Bucs.
That's the Tampa Bay Bucs, right? Yeah. They're number 2 in fewest yards after the catch, number 2 in sacks, number 1 in pressures, 3 in hits. You already said they play 68% zone, and they only give up 59% completion rate to opposing quarterbacks. And last I checked, they had the third-ranked defense as far as total yards per game, and I think 5th in scoring. So they've been a very, very good defense despite some of those deficiencies we mentioned.
Now the one knock on them, and it's true, if you look at who they went against, okay, Zach Wilson's first ever game in week 1, okay, against the Jets. Well, obviously they should dominate. Right. They gave us some late touchdowns to Corey Davis. Jameis Winston in week 2, where they won, they blew out the Saints 26-7. Jameis, they don't want him putting the ball up. He's throwing the ball less than 25 times per game. Okay, week 3 at Davis Mills' first ever start in Houston. So yeah,
it's not who you play; it's when you play.
Exactly. Right? Now week 4 at Dallas, where Dallas is playing lights out offensively. Dallas housed them, put up 36 points. So that, to your point, this is where these coaches have to do a good job. Okay, what did Dallas do to them? Okay, they ran the football like crazy, 30 times for over 200 yards with Pollard and Zeke Elliott. Well, okay, I don't expect the Eagles to run the ball 30 times. They're not going to do that. Right. How about 18 times? Is it possible?
that would seem a little sensible, Adam. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. I guess we will see. That was an interesting game because Dallas won, but it was obviously went to overtime, and the Panthers hung in there. They were down 13-7, and they were up 14-13, and Dallas goes up 26-14. Actually, Dallas went up 33-14, 36-4. Wow. And DJ Moore had 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns. You wonder if they got a little lax there, Dallas, and then that let
probably John. Yeah. But DJ Moore, we'll get to him in a second.
Yeah, he's been a stud.
He's on a contract here. He's although I think they'll probably extend after the season, but I'm just as we try to learn this coaching staff, both sides of the football, I do wonder how much they'll learn from how good their offense was last week. I mean, I get the Chiefs have a bad defense, but you got to do what you got to get the job done, and they did. The Eagles offense did pretty well last week. This is the Panthers. I would not say they don't qualify as a high scoring team, particularly if McCaffrey doesn't play. Right. So I wonder, do they just still come out and throw like they crazy like they've been, or do they mix it? Do they mix in the run? I'm not saying, again, in the first half you have to make it 50-50. Absolutely not. Right. But can you get 10 to 12 carries if you're going to throw it 18 to 20 times in the first half?
We shall see on that. Yeah. All right, let's talk about Eagles defense against the Panther offense. First, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, has a Week 5 offer every football fan should jump on. So new customers can bet just $1 on any NFL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. The last 0-0 tie in the NFL was 1943. So I'm going to go ahead and call this one a no-brainer bet right there. DraftKings customers can also get skin in the game with the new same-game parlays. You combine multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. DraftKings is a safe, secure, and reliable app. And best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code ITB. Bet just $1 on any NFL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a point. Promo code ITB this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Got to be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, well, let's talk about this Eagles defense. You mentioned how the offensive line, they're hurting at left tackle. It's not the greatest offensive line in the world. And you would normally, right? Normally we would say this is a great opportunity for the Eagles and their front four to really kind of capitalize and dominate, and it is. But the problem I see is that they're just in the midst right now, Adam, of an identity crisis, and they're going through it. You can tell. I mean, Fletcher Cox had his press conference. He did not make excuses, but he did lay it out that he's playing the 4-eye, as I think you had mentioned last week. Not all the time, but playing enough 4-eye, which is a different alignment, a different technique, a different responsibility. And they're just not built like a traditional cover 2 defense. So, by the way, it's been making me think a little bit about that draft day, whatever you want to call it, when Tom Donahoe clearly wasn't happy that they didn't take the Aleem McNeil kid and they wound up taking Milton Williams because McNeil was a big 320, 30-pound run stuffer, and that's really honestly what they're really missing playing this style of defense. They're not – every good cover 2 defense has had that enormous run stuffer that plays opposite the 3 or alongside the 3 technique, and they really don't have that, and you see the results of that. They're getting run on.
Yeah, McNeil is starting as on the nose for the Lions, though their defense is pretty bad, and their run defense did not do well last week. But nevertheless, yeah, you had mentioned, I think, months ago that they were looking for a nose tackle.
Yeah, someone to play that spot, right?
And that's why they drafted Tui Pelotu, who really has not been much of a factor. So here's the deal, okay? The Panthers, just by personnel, have one of the worst offensive lines in the National Football League in terms of just, if you look at their starting 5. Moton's a stud, the right tackle, no question. Paradis is a decent center who, by the way, didn't practice surgery due to an illness, but he's expected to play. But Cam Irving, one of the bottom graded left tackles in the NFL. They're not very good at guard. Just by matchups, by personnel matchups, the Eagles D-line should be able to get to Darnold. Darnold got sacked 5 times last week through 2 picks. He put up numbers because they were behind. Darnold, when he struggled with the Jets, where he struggled mightily, he got happy feet. He would hold on the ball. He'd get those deer in the headlight looks when he didn't know what to do with the football under pressure. He's done much better this season getting rid of the football. But again, they've had an easy schedule. This one where Dan Quinn is bringing it, man. He's bringing pressure. He's no longer running the cover 3 defense anymore. They're bringing way more pressure. The the Panthers' offensive line struggled with it. So, the Eagles are. This is incredible. They're the 32nd ranked team blitzing. Oh, by the way, they play the most zone coverage of the National Football League. How about Gannon changing it up a little bit? How about being more aggressive? Don't count on your front 4 winning. They should, but if they're not, let's bring it.
No, I think you're right. But in order to be able to do that, to get yourself in good pass rush situations, you have to be putting a team in 3rd and long or 2nd and long. And, every coach and player will tell you, if you've got a struggling offensive line, the best way to protect them is to run the ball. And unfortunately, that's the kryptonite for the Eagles right now. And if Christian McCaffrey does play, even if he doesn't, but if he does play, he'll probably not get his normal workload if he does play. But Chuba Hubbard's a good running back too. I would think that Matt Rule is going to make Jonathan Gannon stop their run game first and foremost, and then try to set up some good stuff for Darnold and DJ Moore down the field. But why wouldn't you? You look at the last 2 weeks and you say this team is not equipped with the defense that they're playing, the style they're playing, to be able to stop the run. So why don't we just run it up the gut and see if Jonathan Gannon has some kind of adjustment in store? And by the way, Adam, he should. Jonathan Gannon should. I'm not saying he's got to abandon cover 2, but there are ways to, bring your safety into the box as if he's a run defender, then run him back after the snap. I mean, there are ways to get your linebackers you put one linebacker into a gap at the line of scrimmage. Now the offensive line can't double team, right? Because now they're looking at 4 linemen and a linebacker, 5 linemen blocking 5. So that alleviates a double team. So there's got to be some little things that Gannon sees that he has to do, because if he just does what he's done the last 2 weeks, they're in trouble. I got to think they're in trouble.
Yeah, he's got to adjust. And just a couple notes on the Panthers. Chuba Hubbard, who would start for McCaffrey, he does not pass protect well at all. That's why they brought Rodney Smith, who was the best pass protector last season and also in training camp, who had a minor injury, so they cut him. They put him on the practice squad. He cleared waivers, and then they elevated him last week. And I'm sure they'll do the same, if McCaffrey can't play. They also have Royce Freeman, who they claimed off waivers for the Broncos, who's got good size. Tommy Tremble, now they traded Dan Arnold, to the Jaguars. He's gonna play more. It's Ian Thomas and Tommy Tremble, and Temple's Colin Thompson, by the way, number 86.
Good guy.
But Tommy Tremble, as Greg Cosell told us, is a pretty good athlete, way better athlete than he's been given credit for. He had a 30-yard catch earlier this season. He scored on a run. So he's a player, man. There's no question he could be a factor. But the big one is DJ Moore. He's been awesome. He right now he's a top 3 NFL receiver the way that he's played. And the funny thing is Robbie Anderson's become a possession receiver or something. I don't know what they're doing with him.
Yeah, who saw that coming? You would have thought the Sam Darnold, Robbie Anderson connection from the Jets, right, was going to kind of just naturally be recreated.
Weird.
But DJ Moore's a good wide receiver, so it doesn't really surprise me. Yeah,
right.
that's really where the connection is right now. I mean, if you're Sam Darnold, you want to throw the ball to a guy like DJ Moore as much as you possibly can. Yeah,
and then Terrace Marshall, the second rounder out of LSU, is their third receiver. They don't use him very much in terms of the pass game. This is a game the Eagles could steal. There's no question if you just look at the personnel matchups. But because of how poorly their defense has played these last 2 weeks, nothing's a given. They've got a puncher's chance, but the coaches have to help the players win. That's what I like, the way you set that up with Gannon. Help these guys. There's more talent here than they've shown the last 2 weeks. We saw what they did in week 1. Gannon had a good game plan in week 2, but that's when he started to back off. Like in week 1, he did a lot of disguise. Week 2, less disguise. Week 3, next to 0. And week 4, it's like he's never heard of it. So I don't know, man. I don't know what to expect from this guy.
No, who knows? I mean, it's a big guessing game.
Yeah.
I do think, though, I'm going to put a lot of this on the coaching staff. But you know what? Fletcher Cox he's been under the public backlash. He's got to show up this week. He's got to have a better game. He's got to do something more productive. I know they target you. They double team you. They're driving you back in the run. But, you played similarly this position, the 4-eye under Chip Kelly, and you had some of your best years there. So it's not like it can't be done. I get that it's very rare that you're seeing teams just pound you with the run, and it happened 2 straight weeks. But you got to be Fletcher Cox. That's what I'll say. You got to kind of rise here.
The techniques, he's just not used to the techniques. It does take time to. Someone had a good point on our YouTube board about, because there was really no way to tell how much of an impact the starters not playing very much in the preseason would handle. Would impact them. But I think you have to look it down and be honest about it. It absolutely is impacted there because they're just not up to speed on the techniques. They might be at some point, and maybe by week 8 or 9, you go, okay, now I see what Gannon was trying to do. Now they're starting to get it. That's the best case scenario. But right now, they're sure as hell not getting it. And Gannon's going to have to help them. He doesn't have a choice here because the Panthers are a good football team. You've got Joe Brady, who's a pretty innovative OC, who, by the way, interviewed for the Eagles head coaching job. So I'm going to see here. I don't know that I trust Gannon right now to understand it. He's a first-time defensive coordinator. I know he's a smart guy, but smart guys sometimes have to smarten up and help these football players.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Sam Darnold's playing well, and he's got a good connection going on. And you're playing a soft zone, and you're giving little bubbles for guys like Moore and Marshall especially to kind of settle into and move the chains. He's going to have to be at his best. I think what did we say? The Eagles are blitzing 11% of the time, last in the league. 21st in pressures. I mean, this is the Eagles defense we're talking about. 83% zone, and QBs are completing 70. I almost, my eyes pop out of my head.
It's true.
73% against them. And that's not even the worst in the league. It's third worst, fourth worst. So that's unbelievable.
It's embarrassing. And they were so good in week 1. And it's funny. We were watching that, we saw that, you and I saw the tape, and, we talked to people, and it looked like they were doing everything that we were told they would do. And it's like, I don't know why he's changed. I don't know why he's so, okay, we're not going to give it the deep ball, but we'll give you everything underneath. Well, what? That doesn't help you.
No, it does not.
This is like Jim Schwartz all over again. They ask him to do things they're not very good at right now. So,
right.
This could be a long game. I mean, this is on the road. We'll see how they handle it.
I suspect there might be a personnel change. Now, it may not be right away.
Okay.
Eric Wilson may get a shot to come out there on first and second down and see how if he adjusts to whatever they've done this week to try to tighten it up. But if he continues to not get off blocks and not make tackles, I suspect you might see Sean Bradley come in for first or second down. I know people are craving for Davion Taylor because he's the great athlete, but Taylor is, as we have talked about, is more of a coverage line.
Yeah.
Taylor is what they want Eric Wilson to be, or they want Taylor to be what Eric Wilson is, except better, but he's not even ready yet. But I think Bradley, as we saw against the Atlanta game, if you remember when they were struggling in the first half, they brought in Sean Bradley to play when Atlanta would come out with a fullback or two tight ends in that, 12 or 22 personnel. So I would look to maybe see if Gannon, one of his wrinkles is getting Bradley more on the field.
Yeah, Bradley only played 3 snaps last week. TJ Edwards only played 17. I could certainly see them trying to get the run defense going. It was terrible last week, surprisingly. But look, overall, Gannon's got to help them, and the staff overall has got to do a better job on defense. Look, Rodney McLeod was back last week, right? He had 48 snaps, 72% of the defensive snaps.
Right.
They got to be way better. The linebackers have to be more disciplined. It's all out there for them. They have the tape. It was terrible. They got humbled, and we'll see if they could rise to the occasion and improve.
All right. That pretty much wraps up Eagles defense versus the Panthers offense. We're going to give our predictions for this game. First, we're going to tell you to check out our friends at phlsportsnation.com, enhancing the fan experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. So check them out at phlsportsnation.com. And you can find them on Twitter at phlsportsnation. Let's pause another minute for a word from our really good friends and our great sponsors, including our buddies at Sky Motor Cars. And if you head out to Sky Motor Cars in Westchester, PA, tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get the best deal. All right, I've been kind of wrestling back and forth with this prediction, Adam. So I'll start with you first. What do you think?
I've got it. Eagles 20, Panthers 24. That's the way I see it.
You love doing that. Panthers 24, that. Eagles 20. I actually am in sort of an agreement with you on the low-scoring nature of this game. I do think it's going to be certainly not 42-30 like we saw last week. I am going to pick the Eagles to win this game. I'm a big believer. I'm a big believer in it. Whenever it looks like it's the worst or rock bottom, the better days are ahead. And I know Carolina's also coming off a loss, but I feel like the Eagles have a lot more to lose, because if they lose this game and then you got Thursday night against Tampa, staring at 1-5 is just that's a recipe for veterans to start checking out and questioning the coaching staff. It's going to be ugly. I do think anybody can win this game. It's a coin flip game, but I'm feeling the Eagles making the changes and expecting Jalen Hurts to kind of piggyback off last week. And I think they're going to win a 26-21 type game right there. Ooh, that's what I got. Okay. Eagles 26, Panthers 21.
All right, I'm going to add something to what you just said. If that happens, it'll be because of two things. Offensively, they protect really well. They protected really well last week, despite the last-minute change. For them to win, they've got to protect well, A, and B, defensively, they cannot give up the big plays that they've been giving up lately. The Dallas game was like play after play, and then last week, of course, with Tyreek Hill. I mean, Chiefs didn't even need Kelsey to crush them. Tyreek Hill embarrassed them. So DJ Moore, look, they've got to control him. He's been going off. They can't have that happen.
I totally agree with you. All right. So we will see what happens. And again, we'll break it down even more comprehensively on Sunday, 10 a.m. to noon. Come see us on our YouTube channel or however you watch Inside the Birds live streams. It'll be myself, Adam, Greg Cosell, and the great Jason Avant. And 2 hours of just nonstop X's and O's. That's what I love about our show. We no fluff, no locker room talk, no trading. But we're not going to get into Darius Slade talking about giving a hat tip to a cowboy. It doesn't matter. We just break down the X's and the O's. That's it.
You got it.
That'll do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. Want to give a big shout out to Hunter Brody, our producer. Check him out on Twitter at Broads81. Check out his YouTube channel, which is called Sports Talk with Broads, and find out his work on his website, broadsmedia.com. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.